But affected plans and participants, any plan that's individual account subject to ERISA that's participant directed. And whether that disclosure must be provided to any participant that's eligible. So again, in our plans, if we have a lot of participants but they're not, and they're eligible and not participating, they still have to get the fee disclosure information. The disclosure has to include investment instructions, voting tender rights, the identification of investment alternatives, the managers, a description of brokerage windows, legal, accounting, fees that may be charged, but services they may not be using. So that's going to be confusing and I think overwhelming in some cases to some plan participants. The administrative expenses that are actually charged in dollars, because the other thing that the Department of Labor found is, you know, in our industry, we talk a lot about basis points. Well, the cost is 25 basis points. Most plan participants don't know how to relate that to a dollar amount, so they actually, now on the participant disclosure, they'll have to see it as X dollars per thousand or X dollars per hundred. Individual participant and beneficiary expenses that may be charged, such as, even if they're not utilizing at this point, if they would ever take a loan, utilize managed accounts or an investment advice, any commissions, and then charges that actually happen have to occur quarterly under quarterly statement. So charges that may happen, an investment information once a year, charges that actually impact a participant quarterly. If you make a change to an investment, there has to be at least a 30-day notice to that change and any charge that's associated with it. But again, you can incorporate that. That has to happen 30 days in advance, but then it can roll up into the annual disclosure as well. Any changes on the summary plan description, it's almost like a little mini summary plan description that has to be included. So that third quarter statement, the other thing that we hear a lot, if we're out doing meetings and some advisors will say, well, bring your last statement. A lot of folks will say, I don't even open them. I know I've lost money, so I don't open my statement. So all of a sudden, we have participants that may not have opened a statement for a period of time, and their statement's going to be thicker, and they're going to see all kinds of information that they may not understand. So again, I think getting out in front of this, we have some guides to understanding, because there does have to be a glossary of information. And then you'll see several grids. One grid will be on the investment piece, comparing investments to their benchmarks, showing the 1, 3, 5, 10 year, any investment management fees, and then the second grid will be on fixed investments, so they can see stable value. I have a stable value option. What are the rules regarding that stable value option? Any fees and expenses for the fixed investments. So it's going to be a very comprehensive statement. We have some samples. I know all the major platform providers are prepared for this. There'll be some webinars that we're doing, and I know that, you know, a lot of my colleagues and from other platforms, they've been doing seminars. So I would say if you haven't thought about this as far as your plan participants, probably a good time to be talking to your financial advisor to get ahead of it and do some education before that third quarter comes. Comparative format has to be there. And again, the Department of Labor has provided a model chart. It is on their website. And I think, again, most of the major platforms are using that Department of Labor comparative format. It seems to be the way to go. And that way, at least there'll be consistency. So you can check that out. As we talk about impacting participant outcomes, just something we've seen to be effective this past couple years with Social Security, tax rates going down a little bit. A lot of plan sponsors have gotten notice out to their participants to utilize that to increase their contribution in the 401k. If I'm going to impact my outcome at retirement and I have this 2%, let's utilize that while we can. So again, check with your provider. There's probably a lot of little sheets and education pieces out there what that additional 2% could mean to somebody at retirement time. Real quick update on what's going on. I know that they did a great job this morning talking about tax reform and what to expect. And I think, as mentioned this morning, we're in an election year. I don't think we're going to see anything sweeping at all before 2013. But some of the things that have been on the horizon, we'll see place carded bills that have been there for a while, and then all of a sudden they come in. auto enrollment IRA seems to have been hanging in there for some time. And that's really geared to that small employer, probably 10 lives or less, because typically they don't always have a plan. And Congress really wants to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to save. And it's always easier to save through payroll deduction. Deficit reduction, one of the things that we've seen pretty heavily is everything's on the table. And if you look at the $7 trillion or more dollars that are in retirement plans that are out there, with dollars accumulating tax deferred, it could be, could be the next big wave of where do we get some revenue. So there's been a lot of talk about reducing the maximums, eliminating the catch-up, lowering the deferral limit, and lowering covered compensation. So a lot of changes. The SEAL Act, they're looking at, again, how do we force folks to save? And if they're taking loans on the plan all the time, they can't do that. So there's some talk about, possibly limiting the number of loans, allowing deferrals after hardships, things like that. So there's a lot on the horizon. Participant advice, this kind of came through the end of December of 2011. If you are defined as a fiduciary giving investment advice, you do have to use a computer model, fees levelized, and disclose an audit. So just a reminder about that. Target date funds, we're going to continue to see more disclosure required on target date funds because, again, it's an education piece. Not every plan sponsor understands that we have several options in target date funds, whether they're they fund to retirement at age 65 or fund through retirement to age 85. Real big difference. And so that's probably going to be the next level of disclosures, is really making sure participants and sponsors understand what does my target date fund look like. So something to see. I went through this overview very, very quickly because I know we need to get on with some continuing ed here, but we do have, as a public service, ING 401k Info Center. Actually, in your packet with the presentation, you'll see the website, and there's tons of technical information, and we also have the ING Retirement Institute, and there's a lot of behavioral finance studies, some white papers. So again, we're here to help you. We're here to support you, and certainly appreciate your time today, and if there's any questions, feel free to ask them now or see me after, because I know we need to get the continuing ed going.